I'm Paige Ann Olson. Welcome to my video channel. I got some fun things for Christmas, some new tools, and I have some old tools, not old, but I have tools I use every day. And I wanted to share my new tool stash that I got for Christmas from my husband and my son. And then I wanted to show you kind of my everyday tools that I use for primarily ironing, cutting, and sewing. I have many other tools outside of what I'm going to show you today, but these are kind of my go-to, use all the time kind of tools. So to begin with, I have this cute little, they call it a stash and store. And it's a great way for me to sit it on my table and just grab what I need when I'm cutting or ironing. So kind of a fun thing I got is a lighted seam ripper. And I don't know if I will use it a ton, but you know, as I get older, I need a lot more light. So I haven't used it yet, but if I'm ever ripping in the dark, this is the tool to use right there. And I'm going to put it back here in my little organizer. A favorite thing that I got, and I've actually had these about a month, and I just bought these. I got these at Primitive Gatherings, and they're a great size, and they're perfect for just clipping, and I use these for everything. So these are great for next to your sewing machine as well. And again, I really like the size, and they're nice and sharp, and they're sharp all the way to the end, which I love that. I haven't used this really yet. This is actually a little duster to clean my my feet. You know, they get dusty with all that lint, and this is kind of what the function of this is. But I haven't really used this much yet. But I'll have to let you know later how this works. And this tool I use all the time. It's a clover, and I think you've seen me use it before. And it's a point turner, and it has both this rounded edge and it has this point. So you can get really nice sharp points with this. And then if you want to just ease something, if you're doing a pillow and trying to work the corners out, sometimes this is a little bit nicer, and you, depending on the fabric, you don't want to tear it. And this is kind of a nice tool to use for that. And this is my everyday, all the time go-to seam ripper. You know, probably 8 or 9 years ago, I lived close to a quilt store. And many of the tools that I have, I got from that shop. They have actually since closed, which is really sad. They've really closed. And so if I know where I got the tool, I will tell you. If I don't, most of these you can get online. So, and then I have talked to you about the heat soluble pens that I use. I buy them at Madam Sew online, and I think they come in 4 colors. They come in red, black, this blue, which I use a lot, and they come in white. I have not been as happy with the white as I am with the black, the red, and the blue. The white one just doesn't seem to work for some reason for me. So instead, I have this white, my husband got me this in my stocking. I have this white, it's like a chalk pencil. And I'm going to show you how cool it is. So on black fabric, because the blue clearly doesn't show very well on the black. So for dark fabrics, I use this. And I'm going to mark on it for you so you can see it. Hopefully you can see that mark. And I'm going to do the same thing with this that I would do with this heat soluble. It's also heat soluble. And my iron, it comes right off. So I love this for that. And kind of I'm actually including this because I really like it, and I use this way more than I thought I would. I received this, I ordered some fabric, and I want to say from Fort Worth fabric store, I think. And anyway, they included this when I ordered the fabric, and it's a It kind of is like a pentel. You turn it and then the pencil lead comes up. But I love the thickness of it. I don't know what it is. And this is super handy. I use it way more than I thought I would. So I wanted to show that to you too. And it was kind of one of those freebies that they threw in when they sent me some fabric. So I'm going to show you my favorite rulers in just a second, but I want to show you my new fun tools I got for Christmas. Well, actually, I'm going to show you this ruler first because this little gripper is going to go on this. This is my ruler that I use when I'm cutting strips or if I'm cutting yardage. This is my go-to ruler. I use this all the time. So I put tabs on the back of this right here, and it helps grip, but it's not perfect. This, however, that I got in my stocking this year, I think this is going to be great. I have not used it yet, so I'm going to show you kind of how it works. You put it, it's a suction cup, and you put it, like I'd put it in the middle of the ruler, but I want you to be able to see it because that's where your center of gravity is. And all you do is you place it where you want it to go. I'm going to place it like that. And then you flip this up like that. And it grips it, it holds it. So when you're cutting your fabric, you can get a really nice grip, a really nice hold on this as you cut your fabric. And it helps you not slide, which is fabulous. I love it. So I'm gonna and then you just pop it off like that. It's a little suction, and that's it. It's called the little gripper. And they're cute too. And the other thing is I got a lot of thread. I ask for thread all the time every year because I go through a lot of thread. And I typically use Glide 40 weight for quilting. And the reason I use it, first of all, my machine loves it. And I can use this for both embroidery and for sewing. So I like a dual purpose thread. I don't want to have a whole separate bunch of thread that I have to use for embroidery and then a whole separate bunch that I have to use for sewing and quilting. So I like this because you can use it for both. And it has a beautiful sheen. I use other threads as well, but this is my primary go-to. And I have a lot of these white and black and dark gray Glide threads. And then my son gave me, which I've not tried these either, this is for long arm quilting, and I have used the Machingers. I have not tried these. There is a right and a left for, obviously, your right and left hand. And when I put them on Christmas morning, I must have put it on the wrong side because they didn't feel like they fit correctly. So, but these, actually, now that I put them on correctly, they feel like they fit perfectly. And the idea is you hold your fabric just like you do if you have, gloves. So I'm anxious to see how these work. I like that I have my fingers free for threading, or if I bury my stitches, then I want to have my fingers free without taking my gloves off. So I'm anxious to see how these work. We'll try. So I also received a backup small little iron, and I got it in a different color. Let me show you. I got this in the teal. I don't know why, because I just thought it was pretty. And the one I have now is yellow. You've seen it if you've watched any of my videos. I actually have it plugged in. I use this so much of the time. Like 99% of the time I'm using this small iron. I have a larger Oliso iron as well. I just don't use it very much. It's hard for me to stand for hours and hours and hours. So I like being able to sit on the tabletop here and use my little iron. And I leave it plugged in almost all day when I'm working. So it gets a lot of use. And because it gets so much use, I wanted to make sure I had a backup in case that goes kaput. I've probably had it, at least a year, maybe a little bit longer. And what's great, another thing that's great, I didn't show you, is it comes with this little sole plate. So you can just leave it. I don't think you're supposed to leave it on wood, which is what I have it on. I don't think you're supposed to do that, but I do. And I'm here watching it, so I'm not gonna burn up. Okay. So, okay, I've shown that to you. I got these as well. Okay, I'm almost embarrassed to tell you. Like, I didn't even know these existed. These are very cool. If you are quilting on a Sweet 16 or a sit-down long arm, mid-arm machine, or on a domestic machine, these are going to be a lifesaver for me, because you'll know if you do queen size or larger quilt, there is so much bulk to your quilt as your machine quilting it, that it makes it very difficult to move the quilt around. I'm hoping, and the idea is that when you roll up your quilt as you're quilting it, that these are clamps that you actually put over the rolled bunch, and it will help navigate or move the heavy weight of the quilt. So I'm anxious to try these. I've got a quilt I'm gonna do in the next couple of days, and I'm gonna try these, and I'll let you know how these work. The last thing that I got, well, this isn't exactly the last thing I got for Christmas, but another thing I got for Christmas is something called Sew Tights. And these are magnets, and you use these instead of, or in place of, pins. And they're great if you are working with wool projects, which I don't really have a lot of. I've got a project I'm going to do for you and show you, and it is a wool project, but I don't do a lot of wool. I haven't done a lot of wool in the past, but they're very, very strong magnets. And really, I'm more excited about using these for bag making, because a lot of times clips won't work, pins won't work because of the type of fabric you use. If it's faux leather or if it's cork or something really thick, you can't get pins, or clips won't work because the clips aren't big enough. And so I'm excited to use these for that kind of a project. And they're called Sew Tights. These are called dots, but they have all different types of Sew Tights. I think they have long metal ones, and these just happen to be the ones that my husband got me, and I'm anxious to try these as well. One of my favorite go-to rulers that I use, especially when I'm cutting up fabric after I'm done with it and I have just pieces left and I want to go ahead and cut it up, is this ruler. It's called a Square 2 by, I think her name is Deb Tucker. And I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to put my hand here. And this is the part of the ruler I use most often. But when I'm done with fabric and I don't want to use it as yardage anymore, and I want to start cutting it up and putting it in my stash, I use this ruler because it's got a 1.5 inch, 2.5 inch, 3.5, oops, sorry, wrong side. It's got a 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. It goes up to 6.5. And this is obviously what I use when I'm cutting up the squares for my stash. And one side has the 6.5, the other side has the finished size. I almost never use the finished side. It's this side is the one that I use. I showed you the wrong thing. I'm sorry, kind of backwards here. So that's what I use, and hopefully you can see that. And if not, I'll do a close-up for you. But I use this all the time. And then here is my 12-inch, 1.5 inch wide, 12-inch. I use this for a lot of little things. I'm doing a project now where I'm making a little wall hanging. It's going to have some writing on it. And to cut up I used Lori Holt's Spelling Bee book. And I cut out a bunch of letters, and I used this almost primarily because they were small pieces, which, by the way, this is a super fun little book to use if you want to put someone's name on a quilt, or if you're making a baby quilt, you could they have hearts in here and little cars, and it's just an adorable book. So I use this for that kind of stuff. And I've shown you before I did get this new mat for Christmas, and I've shown you my wool mat before. I use this all the time, and I think this might be a 17. I'll just measure it for you. It is a 17 by 24. So it's a 17 by 24 wool mat. And I have the silicone roll that I used on my smaller one. I just cut, the roll comes, I got it at Amazon, and the roll comes like this, silicone roll. And I just cut off what I needed, and I put it on top of my cutting mat so that when I'm ironing on my mat, it does not warp my cutting mat. Which is a very, you may not be able to see this, but before I used my silicone, this is a little warped. I need to replace this cutting mat. But once I got the silicone mat, it doesn't really warp. And another little tool, and this is not a sewing tool necessarily, but to clean my mat, I use one of these lint to take off the little pieces of lint. You can actually wash these in cold water, and they are supposed to come out nicely. I've not tried that before, but if I ever do need to do that, I'll let you know. But that's what that's how they say you should take care of it. And then of course I've got my clapper. This is one of my favorite tools. I love this tool. And if you want to work on quilts and you want your fabric to be as crisp as you can make it, this is a great tool to use for that. And often I use my little 45 millimeter Olfa cutter. I know they have all kinds of different ones. I know a lot of people like the 60 millimeter. I just like the 45. I do a lot of small pieces, and so I like the 45. And so this is the Slimline 3. It's a table lamp. I'm going to turn it on for you. And it's got 4 settings. This is the highest setting. And it moves like this, which is great. And it moves down and it moves up. And the concept of this is to put over your sewing machine. But I had a light here and I thought this would be better. And it is. So we clamped it to the side of this table. This is the clamp one. They have different kinds, but this is the clamp one. And so I think what I'm going to do, I like it so much that I'm going to end up buying another one and putting it over my sewing machine because I just love it. And this is a daylight one. And I've already used it. Well, ever since I got it at Christmas, I've used it every day. So I hope you've enjoyed my tools or my new tool stash. And if so, please give me a like, subscribe to my channel, leave comments if you have questions about any of these tools or anything else that you think you'd like me to talk about. That'd be great too. And I'd love to know what's under your needle.